So I was right. It's being held in the Cedar suite, which is one of the suites sort of down this end here. A reasonable sized room. Maybe it would fit 200 comfortably, 300 or 400 at a push. I went in and I was met. Well, first I went into the reception and asked where the New Life sort of centre was, and they told me, so I went through to the Cedar suite and I met one of the people who was welcoming there, who was rather nice, had a talk for a bit, a woman. They have lots and lots of tiny children, your sort of age, sort of just over toddlers, 4 or 5 years old perhaps, and lots of quite middle-aged to older people, sort of 40s plus, but not very many seniors, which is unusual for this area. Anyway, so I went in and I met my neighbour, Antonia, which is a bit weird because I had thought that she was at the Odeon Cinema, the New Life Destiny Church, which is not one of the churches that I'm visiting because it is a little bit. I've had a look at its website. It's one of these independent ministries. It doesn't seem to be, I don't think, from the website, something that I would actually want to be involved with. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it at all. I'm just saying that it's not something that I would be confident about. So anyway, again, I do apologise for the wind. So I went in, and the first hour was taken up with worship songs. They had a worship band there. They had a little Promethean board with words on, and I'm quite used to the new wine type spring harvest music. I was fascinated to see that in the 15 years since I've last looked at a New Life church, the only one I've been to was the one in Lincoln about 15 years ago. Lots of that music has gone and it's been replaced with the sort of music which is quite interesting actually. It is Teze in lyric and style, but very much more jubilant in its expression, if that makes sense. So maybe 2 or 3 lines that are repeated over and over and over again to simple music that anybody could pick up. I mean, I didn't know any of them, and of course by the end of it I knew them all. Very, very simple, and but not done in the quiet, reflective Teze way, but done in the sort of rejoicing with tambourines and sort of kind of have a hallelujah, which is of course what you would expect from a New Life church. So that went on. We only had about 5 or 6 songs, but we were there for an hour doing the worship. In between time there were a little bit of prayers. There was a song also sung when they did an offertory, and then after that they had a little break and all the little children went out to some sort of young church, and they had the speaker who was speaking about prophecy because it's one of their cores, and this is something that bothers me a little bit, and that's that they don't really do creeds at this church. They do what's called declaration, and of course the declaration is rather more focused on their emphasis than on Christianity itself. They would read out what they had called promises, scriptural promises, to reaffirm them, but they were things like, God will provide all the wealth I need, God will provide all the health I need, and that's a little bit, whoops, the wind's picking up, that's a little bit too prosperity gospel for me. Little bit too prosperity gospel. And then they started their talk on prophecy, and they did read scriptures, but it wasn't what I would call hardcore scriptural teaching. And of course I left just before 12, and they were still going. and I was told, you know, that their services are often more than 2 hours long. It's a fun experience. I wouldn't mind coming to some of their speakers, because they do have events with speakers going on. I wouldn't mind getting some information on that and coming along for that, but as a church it's not something that I'm going to join. I know. Firstly, there is this sense that it's sort of slightly awkward, you know, with people that I already know there. Secondly, I'm just not 100% sold on some of their doctrines. Thirdly, I don't know that the people taking it are actually ordained ministers. Fourthly, you know, I get lost because there's so much worship which I love, but after you've sung sort of one or two, they all seem a bit samey. There's no, I don't know, I like the traditional, I like the hymns, I guess. And finally, it just goes on way too long. So I think not, but it has been. Oh, and the other thing is, it's in a hotel and not in a church. I know that shouldn't matter at all, but for some reason it does. So anyway, that was my church search. I'm going to say no, I won't attend this church, and I'm pretty sure of that. But I'm going to rank it quite highly nonetheless, I think. And so there we are.